My daughter-in-law called me at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. "Mom," she said, and I could hear her voice shaking. "I need you, please. I really need you right now." I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. In the 3 years since my son Marcus married Jennifer, she had never called me mom with that kind of desperation in her voice. We had a good relationship, better than good, actually. She was the daughter I never had. But this was different. "Baby, what's wrong?" I grabbed my robe, already heading for the door. "Where's Marcus?" He's on a business trip in Chicago. He won't be back until Friday." She took a shaky breath. "Mom, I'm at the hospital. I'm okay, but I really need someone here. I can't call my mother. She'd panic, and she's too far away anyway. You're only 20 minutes from me." I didn't ask questions. I just got dressed and drove. When I got to Mercy General Hospital, I found Jennifer in a private waiting room, her eyes red from crying. She was wearing sweatpants and one of Marcus's old college hoodies, and she looked so young and scared that my heart broke. "Honey, what happened?" I sat down next to her and took her hand. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "I lost the baby, Mom. I was 12 weeks pregnant. We weren't going to tell anyone until after the first trimester, but I started bleeding this afternoon and..." Her voice cracked. "The baby's gone." I pulled her into my arms and let her cry. She sobbed against my shoulder for what felt like hours. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? So I just held her and stroked her hair and let her grieve. "Does Marcus know?" I finally asked. She shook her head. "His phone keeps going to voicemail. He's probably in meetings all day. I left him a message, but I couldn't tell him over voicemail." "How do I tell him this?" "You tell him the truth, baby. And you tell him together, as a team. This isn't your fault. You know that, right?" She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe it. We stayed at that hospital until 3 in the morning. I held her hand while the doctor explained what happened, filled her prescriptions at the 24-hour pharmacy, drove her home, and tucked her into bed like she was my own child, because that's what she was to me, my child. "Thank you for coming," she whispered as I was about to leave. "I didn't know who else to call. My mother would have fallen apart, but you're so strong. You always know what to do." I kissed her forehead. "That's what mothers are for, honey. I'm here, always." That night changed everything between us. It created a bond that went deeper than just being related by marriage. From that moment on, Jennifer and I weren't just daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. We were mother and daughter in every way that mattered. Over the next few months, I made sure to check in on her every day. Not in an intrusive way, but just to let her know I was thinking about her. A text message here, a phone call there. Sometimes I'd drop off her favorite soup from that little place downtown. When she was ready to talk about trying again, I listened. When she wasn't ready, I gave her space. Marcus told me later that I had saved her during those dark months. He said you were her rock, Mom, that she doesn't know how she would have gotten through it without you. But here's the thing. About being there for people, it's not about keeping score. It's not about them owing you something. I was there for Jennifer because I loved her. Period. I never expected anything in return. And then, 8 months after that terrible night, Jennifer called me again. This time, her voice was filled with joy instead of tears. "Mom, I'm pregnant. The doctor just confirmed it. I'm 6 weeks along." I cried happy tears this time. And when she asked me to come to every doctor's appointment with her because Marcus's work schedule was unpredictable, I said yes, without hesitation. When she had morning sickness so bad that she couldn't keep anything down, I showed up at her house with ginger tea and crackers. When she was on bed rest at 7 months, I took 2 weeks off work to stay with her. You don't have to do all this, she told me one afternoon as I was meal prepping for her. You've already done so much. Jennifer, honey, I'm not doing this because I have to. I'm doing this because I want to. You're carrying my grandbaby, and you're my daughter. This is where I want to be. My beautiful granddaughter Zoe was born on a sunny Tuesday morning in May. I was in that delivery room right alongside Marcus, and I was the second person to hold that precious baby after her mama. Jennifer looked up at me with exhausted, happy eyes and said, "Thank you for everything, Mom, for being here, for all of it." But what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Jennifer's own mother, Patricia, had been keeping track of everything I did. And she wasn't happy about it. Patricia lived in Atlanta, about 8 hours away from us in Baltimore. She had visited twice during Jennifer's pregnancy, but both times she had stayed at a hotel and kept the visits short. She always had an excuse: work obligations, a friend's wedding, some committee meeting she couldn't miss. Jennifer tried not to let it bother her, but I could see the hurt in her eyes every time her mother made another excuse. "She's busy, Mom," Jennifer would say, trying to convince herself more than me. "She's always been career-focused. That's just who she is." I didn't say what I was thinking, that no career should be more important than your daughter having a baby, that some moments in life only happen once, and you can't get them back. But it wasn't my place to criticize Jennifer's mother, so I kept my mouth shut and just continued being there for my daughter-in-law. Patricia finally came to visit when Zoe was 2 weeks old. I was at Jennifer's house when she arrived, helping with laundry and cooking dinner so Jennifer could rest. I had planned to leave as soon as Patricia got there. I didn't want to intrude on their time together, but what happened next caught me completely off guard. Patricia walked through the door with her designer luggage and her perfectly pressed linen suit, took one look at me folding baby clothes in the living room, and her whole face changed. "Jennifer," she said, her voice tight, "I didn't realize we'd have company." Jennifer was on the couch, nursing Zoe. She looked confused. "Mom, this is Marcus's mother, Diane. I've told you about her." "Oh, I know who she is." Patricia set down her bags with more force than necessary. "I've heard quite a lot about her, actually." The temperature in the room seemed to drop about 20 degrees. I stood up, folding the last onesie. "I was just leaving. It's nice to finally meet you properly, Patricia." I moved toward the door, but Jennifer's voice stopped me. "Mom, you don't have to leave. You were going to stay for dinner." "It's fine, honey. You need time with your mother." I gave her a smile and squeezed her shoulder. "I'll see you tomorrow." As I was leaving, I heard Patricia say, "Tomorrow? She's coming back tomorrow?" I didn't hear Jennifer's response, but I felt a knot forming in my stomach. Something wasn't right. The next morning, Jennifer called me in tears, again. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you come over? My mother went out to get coffee." 20 minutes later, I was back at her house. Jennifer was still in her pajamas, Zoe sleeping in the bassinet beside her. She looked exhausted and stressed in a way I hadn't seen since the miscarriage. "What happened, baby?" "My mother sat me down last night after you left," Jennifer began, twisting her wedding ring around her finger, something she only did when she was anxious. "She said she's been observing our relationship, yours and mine. She said it's concerning." "Concerning? What does that mean?" "She said..." Jennifer's voice cracked. "She said you're trying to replace her, that you're overstepping boundaries, that I'm letting you be too involved in my life and with Zoe. She said a grandmother shouldn't be at every doctor's appointment, that it's weird that I call you Mom, that you're manipulating me and trying to make her look bad." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Jennifer, I never meant..." I know. She grabbed my hand. I know you didn't. I told her that. I told her that you were there for me when I needed someone, and I'm grateful for you. But she just kept saying that it's not natural for a daughter-in-law and mother-in-law to be this close. She said I'm disrespecting her by having such a strong bond with you. What do you want me to do? I asked gently. If my being around is causing problems between you and your mother, I can step back. I don't want to come between you two. No. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. That's exactly what she wants. She wants you to disappear so she can swoop in and take credit for everything. But she wasn't here, Mom. When I lost the baby, when I was sick, when I was scared, you were here. She wasn't. And now she's acting like I've betrayed her by loving you. I pulled her into a hug. Honey, you haven't betrayed anyone. You're allowed to love both of us. Love isn't a competition. Try telling her that. She mumbled against my shoulder. Patricia stayed for 3 days, and those were 3 of the longest days of my life. She made it clear, without saying it directly, that I wasn't welcome while she was there. Jennifer tried to include me, but every time I showed up, Patricia would make some comment about how crowded it was or how the baby needed quiet time with just family. The final straw came on her last evening there. Marcus had come home early from work to spend time with his mother-in-law, and I had stopped by to drop off a freezer meal I'd prepared. I wasn't planning to stay, just a quick in and out, but when I walked in, I found Patricia holding Zoe and talking to Marcus in the kitchen. You know, Marcus, she was saying, Jennifer has been telling me how much your mother helps out, and while I'm sure she means well, I'm concerned that she might be overwhelming Jennifer. New mothers need space to bond with their babies, not someone constantly hovering. I froze in the doorway. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Mom Diane has been a huge help, Patricia. Jennifer's really grateful. Is she, though? Or is she just too polite to say that it's too much? I'm her mother. I know her better than anyone, and I can see the stress in her eyes. That's when Jennifer walked in from the bedroom, having clearly heard everything. Her face was red with anger. Mother, stop it right now. Patricia turned, still holding Zoe. Sweetheart, I'm just trying to... You're trying to make Mom Diane feel bad for being there when you weren't. The room went silent. Even baby Zoe seemed to sense the tension and started to fuss. Patricia's face went hard. I see. Well, it's clear where your loyalties lie. She handed Zoe to Marcus and picked up her purse. I'll be leaving tonight instead of tomorrow morning. Goodbye, Jennifer. Jennifer tried to stop her mother from leaving, but Patricia was already out the door. I heard her car start up and pull away, and then there was just silence in that house. Heavy, uncomfortable silence. I'm so sorry, Jennifer whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. I went to her and wrapped my arms around her. You have nothing to apologize for, baby. Nothing at all. Marcus stood there holding Zoe, looking torn. Should I go after her? Try to talk to her? No, Jennifer said firmly. Let her go. She needs to cool down, and honestly, I need a break from her. That night, after Marcus put Zoe down for bed, the 3 of us sat in the living room and talked for hours. Jennifer told us things I hadn't known, how her mother had always been critical and distant, how she'd spent Jennifer's whole childhood prioritizing her career over her daughter, how she'd missed Jennifer's high school graduation for a business conference. I've always tried to understand, Jennifer said, her voice tired. I told myself that she was doing important work, that she was a trailblazer, that she was showing me how to be a strong, independent woman. And maybe she was, but she was never just there, you know? She was never the mom I needed. She looked at me with fresh tears in her eyes. And then you came into my life, and you were everything I'd always wanted in a mother. You showed up. You cared. You made me feel like I mattered. And now she's angry because I found in you what I never had with her. My heart broke for both of them. For Jennifer, who had spent her whole life craving her mother's attention, and for Patricia, who was too proud or too scared to admit that she'd missed out on knowing her own daughter. "Have you told your mother how you feel?" I asked gently. "I've tried. She doesn't listen, or she gets defensive and turns it around on me. She says I'm being ungrateful, that I don't appreciate all the sacrifices she made for her career." Marcus squeezed his wife's hand. "Maybe some time apart will help. Let things cool down." But things didn't cool down. They got worse. Patricia didn't call Jennifer for 2 weeks after she left. No text messages, no emails, nothing. Jennifer tried reaching out several times, but her mother's responses were short and cold. "I'm busy with work. We'll talk when I'm ready." "She's punishing me," Jennifer told me one afternoon while I was helping her with Zoe. "This is what she does when she doesn't get her way. She cuts me off until I apologize for something that wasn't even my fault." "What do you want to do?" I asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to just give in and apologize so we can move on. But I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired of always being the one to fix things between us." "Then don't," I said simply. "You focus on your baby and your husband and your own happiness. Your mother is a grown woman. She can decide when she's ready to be part of your life again." Jennifer nodded, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Guilt that she shouldn't have to carry. Over the next few months, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Jennifer was an amazing mother, watching Zoe grow and hit all her milestones. I was there for all of it. First smile, first laugh, first time she rolled over. Marcus got a promotion at work, which meant more financial security, but also longer hours. I stepped up even more, helping Jennifer with childcare so she could get some rest or run errands or just have a moment to herself. One evening, I was giving Zoe her bath when Jennifer made dinner. My phone rang and I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hello? Is this Diane Carter?" "Yes, this is she." "Mrs. Carter, my name is Rebecca Klein. I'm an attorney calling on behalf of Patricia Morrison. She's asked me to contact you regarding some concerns she has about her daughter and granddaughter." My heart started pounding. "What kind of concerns?" "She believes that you have been exercising undue influence on your daughter, Jennifer Morrison Carter. She's concerned that you're alienating her from her own mother and inserting yourself inappropriately into her family's life." I nearly dropped the phone. "Excuse me?" "She's asked me to send you a cease and desist letter requesting that you limit your contact with her daughter and granddaughter to appropriate levels for a mother-in-law relationship." A cease and desist letter? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For being there for my son's wife? Mrs. Morrison is prepared to take further legal action if necessary. She believes her daughter may be under duress and unable to make clear decisions about her own family relationships. This is insane. Jennifer is a grown woman who makes her own choices. I haven't done anything wrong. Nevertheless, Mrs. Carter, I'm advising you to maintain appropriate boundaries going forward. You'll receive the formal letter by mail within the next few days. I suggest you consult with your own attorney. The call ended, and I just stood there, Zoe splashing happily in the tub, completely unaware that her grandmother's world was falling apart. "Mom?" Jennifer appeared in the doorway. "Is everything okay? You look pale." I didn't know what to say.
How do you tell someone that their own mother just threatened you with legal action for loving them too much? Who was on the phone? Jennifer asked, her voice growing concerned. I took a deep breath. It was a lawyer. Your mother's lawyer. Jennifer's face went white. What? I told her everything. By the time I finished, she was sitting on the bathroom floor, her head in her hands. I can't believe she would do this, Jennifer whispered. I can't believe she would actually threaten you. This is beyond anything I thought she was capable of. Jennifer, maybe I should step back for a while. I don't want to cause problems. No! She looked up at me with fierce determination in her eyes. Absolutely not. You are not going anywhere. My mother doesn't get to bully us like this. She doesn't get to use lawyers to control who I have in my life. But what if she really does take legal action? Then we'll fight it. Marcus and I will fight it together. She stood up and hugged me tight. You're my family, Mom. You're Zoe's grandmother. My mother can't change that with threats and lawyers. That night, after I went home, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Patricia's call, about the lawyer's cold voice, about the threat of legal action. What could she possibly take me to court for? Being too helpful? Loving my daughter-in-law too much? Showing up when she didn't? The cease and desist letter arrived 3 days later. I sat at my kitchen table and read it with shaking hands.
The letter was 3 pages long, typed on expensive letterhead, full of legal language that made my head spin. But the message was clear. Patricia wanted me out of Jennifer's life. She claimed I was interfering with the natural mother-daughter bond, that I was overstepping normal grandmother boundaries, and that my excessive involvement was causing Jennifer emotional distress. It was all lies, every single word. But the most disturbing part came at the end. If Mrs. Carter does not comply with these requests and maintain appropriate distance, Mrs. Morrison is prepared to pursue legal remedies, including but not limited to restraining orders and custody concerns regarding the minor child. Custody concerns. She was threatening to go after visitation rights with Zoe. I called Marcus immediately. He came over within the hour, and when he read the letter, his face turned red with anger. "This is unbelievable," he said, pacing my living room. "She can't do this. She has no legal standing. Jennifer is an adult. You're my mother. Zoe is our daughter." "But what if she can do something?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What if she finds some judge who believes her version of things? What if she tries to paint me as some kind of manipulative person who's controlling your wife?" "Then we get our own lawyer," Marcus said firmly, "and we shut this down before it goes any further." Jennifer was even more furious than Marcus when she found out about the letter. She called her mother that same evening, and I could hear her yelling through the phone, even though I was in the next room at their house. "How dare you threaten her? How dare you send lawyers after the woman who has been more of a mother to me than you ever were?" I couldn't hear Patricia's response, but Jennifer's face was getting redder by the second. "No, Mother, I will not calm down. You don't get to do this. You don't get to waltz back into my life after ignoring me for months and start making demands about who I can have in my family." More muffled responses from Patricia. "She is family. She's been there for every single important moment since I married your son-in-law. Where were you? Oh, that's right. Too busy with work. Always too busy." Jennifer's voice cracked with emotion. "You want to know why I'm closer to Diane than I am to you? Because she shows up, Mom. She actually shows up. When I lost my baby, she held me. When I was scared during my pregnancy, she was at every appointment. When Zoe was born, she was in that delivery room because she earned the right to be there. You don't get to be jealous of a relationship you never bothered to build." There was a long pause, and then Jennifer's whole body seemed to deflate. "Fine. If that's how you want it, then fine. But know this, you're not just losing me. you're losing your granddaughter too, because I will not have Zoe around someone who treats the people I love like this." She hung up and immediately burst into tears. I held her while she sobbed, her whole body shaking with the weight of what had just happened. "I just told my mother she can't see her granddaughter," Jennifer whispered. "What kind of daughter does that?" "The kind of daughter who's protecting her family," I said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong, Jennifer. Your mother forced this situation." But even as I said it, I felt guilty. This was all because of me, because I had been too involved, too present, too much of a mother to someone who already had one. "Maybe I should just back off," I said quietly. "Maybe if I'm not around as much, your mother will calm down and you two can work things out." Jennifer pulled back and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare let her win. That's exactly what she wants, to drive a wedge between us so she can be the only grandmother, the only mother figure in my life." "But I don't want her. I want you." Those words broke my heart and healed it at the same time. Over the next week, Marcus consulted with 3 different lawyers. They all said the same thing. Patricia didn't have a case. She couldn't force me to stay away from my own son's family. She couldn't dictate how often I saw my granddaughter. And she certainly couldn't claim parental alienation when Jennifer was a fully competent adult making her own choices. "She's bluffing," one lawyer told us. "She's angry and hurt, and she's lashing out, but legally, she's got nothing. My advice is to ignore the letter and continue living your lives. If she actually tries to take legal action, we'll deal with it then. But I doubt she will. This kind of case would get thrown out immediately." That should have made me feel better, but it didn't, because I knew Patricia. I knew she was stubborn and proud and used to getting her way. She wouldn't let this go easily. And I was right. 2 weeks later, Patricia showed up at Jennifer's house, unannounced. I wasn't there. I had been deliberately giving Jennifer some space, seeing her only twice that week instead of almost every day. But Jennifer called me right after, and she was shaking. She came to the door with flowers and gifts for Zoe. She acted like nothing had happened, like she hadn't sent threatening letters or hired lawyers. She just smiled and said she wanted to apologize and start over. "What did you say?" I told her she couldn't just pretend the last month didn't happen, that she owed you an apology too, not just me. And you know what she said? Jennifer's voice was bitter. She said that woman doesn't deserve an apology. She deserves to learn her place. I closed my eyes. "Jennifer." I slammed the door in her face, Mom. I didn't let her in. I didn't take the gifts. I just shut the door and locked it. "How do you feel about that?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I feel free," Jennifer finally said. "For the first time in my life, I feel free from trying to win my mother's approval. I'm done, Mom. I'm completely done." I should have felt relieved. But instead, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, because I knew Patricia wasn't done. Not even close. The next move came from an unexpected direction. Patricia reached out to Marcus's father, my ex-husband, David. We were divorced 15 years ago, but we were still cordial for Marcus's sake. David lived in Florida now with his new wife, and he rarely got involved in family drama. But Patricia apparently called him and fed him a completely different version of events. She told him I was trying to take over Jennifer's life, that I was pushing Jennifer away from her own mother, that I was causing problems in Marcus and Jennifer's marriage. David called Marcus concerned. "Your mother isn't trying to break up your marriage, is she? Patricia made it sound like there's some kind of competition going on." Marcus set him straight immediately. He explained the whole situation, showed him the cease and desist letter, told him about Patricia's unannounced visit. David was shocked. He said, "I had no idea. Patricia made it sound completely different. She said she was the victim here." "She's manipulating people, Dad.
She's calling everyone she can think of to try to turn them against Mom. And that's exactly what Patricia did. Over the next month, she reached out to distant relatives, old family friends, people from Jennifer's childhood. She spun a tale of a controlling mother-in-law who had brainwashed her daughter against her own mother. Some people believed her, some people didn't, but the damage was done.
Jennifer started getting phone calls. Aunts she hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins from Atlanta, even her old college roommate. All of them had the same message. Your mother is heartbroken. Don't you think you're being too hard on her? She's just trying to protect you. The pressure was immense. Every day brought a new message, a new guilt trip, a new person telling Jennifer she was being ungrateful and cruel. They didn't know the full story. They only knew Patricia's carefully crafted version, where she was the wounded mother and I was the villain. I had to block 3 more numbers today, Jennifer told me one afternoon, exhausted. Zoe was napping and Jennifer looked like she hadn't slept in days. My Aunt Carol called me crying, saying I'm breaking my mother's heart. My cousin Denise sent me a long text about respecting my elders. Even people I barely know are reaching out to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe we should just let things settle, I suggested, even though it hurt to say it. I can pull back for a while, give your mother what she wants. Maybe then she'll stop this campaign. No! Jennifer's voice was firm, but I could see the toll this was taking on her. That's what she wants. She wants to isolate me from you so she can swoop in and be the hero. I won't let her do that. But the constant pressure was wearing Jennifer down. She stopped posting on social media because people were leaving comments about being a disrespectful daughter. She stopped answering calls from numbers she didn't recognize. She even stopped going to her favorite coffee shop because Patricia had somehow found out she went there and had told half the Atlanta social circle about our situation. Marcus was furious. This has to stop. She's harassing my wife. She's trying to turn everyone against our family. There has to be something we can do legally. We consulted with another lawyer, but the answer was the same. Unless Patricia was directly threatening us or harassing us herself, there wasn't much we can do about her telling her side of the story to other people. Free speech and all that. The best thing you can do is document everything, the lawyer advised. Keep records of who calls, what they say, any messages or emails. If this escalates to actual harassment, or if she shows up at your home repeatedly, then we can pursue a restraining order. But right now, just keep living your lives and try to ignore the noise. Easier said than done. The breaking point came 6 weeks after Patricia's lawyer had sent that first letter. Jennifer's grandmother, Patricia's mother, Rosa, flew in from Atlanta to mediate the situation. Rosa was 78 years old, sharp as a tack, and didn't take nonsense from anyone, including her own daughter. When she showed up at Jennifer's door unannounced, Jennifer almost didn't let her in. But Rosa had always been kind to Jennifer, and she promised she wasn't there to take sides. I'm here to understand what's really happening, because the story your mother is telling doesn't add up, Rosa said, as Jennifer reluctantly let her inside. I happened to be there that day. It was my day to watch Zoe while Jennifer went to a doctor's appointment. When Rosa saw me holding her great-granddaughter, something shifted in her expression. She said, "You must be Diane," studying me carefully. "Yes, ma'am," I replied, suddenly nervous. "Would you like me to leave? I can take Zoe for a walk." "No, you stay right there." Rosa sat down on the couch and gestured for Jennifer to sit beside her. "I want to hear everything from both of you. The truth." So we told her everything. Jennifer explained about the miscarriage and how I had been there, about the pregnancy and the birth, about Patricia's visits and her growing resentment,
about the lawyer's letter and the threats, about the phone campaign to turn everyone against us. I explained my side too, how I had never meant to replace Patricia, how I had simply been there when Jennifer needed someone, how I loved Jennifer like my own daughter but would never try to come between her and her mother. Rosa listened to everything without interrupting. When we finished, she sat there, quietly, for a long moment, her weathered hands folded in her lap. "And now I want to hear Patricia's side of this," she said finally, reaching for her phone with a determined look on her face. "I'm calling her now."
Finally, she spoke. "My daughter has always been difficult, proud, stubborn, so focused on her career and her image that she forgot what really matters." She looked at Jennifer with sad eyes. "I love Patricia. She's my child. But I also know her flaws, and I know that she has never been the mother you needed." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "When you were a little girl," Rosa continued, "you used to ask me why your mama was always gone, why she missed your school plays and your birthday parties, why she chose work over you. And I didn't have good answers. I made excuses for her, because that's what mothers do. We protect our children, even when they're wrong. But I can't make excuses anymore." She turned to me. "Diane, you did nothing wrong. You showed up. You loved this girl when she needed love. You were there for her in ways Patricia never was. And instead of being grateful that her daughter has another strong woman in her life, Patricia is jealous. She's ashamed. Because your presence reminds her of all the times she wasn't there." "I never meant to make her feel that way," I said softly. "I know you didn't, but Patricia sees everything as a competition. She always has. She can't stand the idea that someone else succeeded where she failed." Rosa stayed for 3 days, and those were 3 of the most healing days we'd had in months. She told Jennifer stories about her childhood, validated her feelings about her mother, and made it clear that choosing to have me in her life didn't make her a bad daughter. "You're allowed to have more than one mother figure," Rosa said. "Love isn't pie. Having more people to love doesn't mean there's less for everyone else. It means there's more love in the world." On her last day there, Rosa called Patricia from Jennifer's living room. With all of us present, she put the phone on speaker. "Patricia," Rosa said firmly, "I'm at Jennifer's house. I've met Diane. I've heard the whole story. And I'm telling you right now, you need to stop this nonsense." "Mama, you don't understand." Patricia's voice came through the speaker, defensive. "I understand perfectly. You're embarrassed because someone else gave your daughter what you didn't. But that's not Diane's fault. That's yours. You made choices, Patricia. You chose your career over your daughter time and time again. And now you're angry because Jennifer found someone who chose her instead. That's not fair." "Life isn't fair. But you know what? You still have a chance to fix this. You can apologize. You can drop this ridiculous legal threat. You can accept that your daughter loves more than one person. Or you can keep being stubborn and lose her completely. Your choice." There was silence on the other end of the line. "I'm going back to Atlanta tomorrow. You have 1 week to make a decision. Either you call Jennifer and apologize to both her and Diane, or I'm cutting you out of my will. I mean it, Patricia. I won't leave my money to someone who's too proud to admit when they're wrong." Rosa hung up without waiting for a response. Jennifer stared at her grandmother in shock. "Grandma Rosa, you didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. Your mother respects money and consequences. Those are the only things that get through to her." Rosa patted Jennifer's hand. "She'll call. She won't apologize sincerely, probably, but she'll call.
and that's a start.
Rosa was right. Patricia called exactly 5 days later. Jennifer was feeding Zoe when her phone rang. She looked at the screen, saw Mom displayed there, and her whole body tensed. She looked at me. I was there making lunch in the kitchen, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "You want me to leave?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "No, stay. Please." Jennifer answered on the fourth ring, putting it on speaker. "Hello, Mother." Jennifer. Patricia's voice was stiff, formal. "I'm calling because your grandmother seems to think I owe you an apology." Not exactly a warm opening. "Do you think you owe me an apology?" Jennifer asked, her voice steady despite the emotion I could see on her face. There was a long pause. I think things got out of hand. I may have overreacted to the situation with Diane. May have? Another pause. I did overreact. There. Are you satisfied? Jennifer closed her eyes, and I could see her fighting back tears. This was the best her mother could do. A grudging, forced apology that didn't even sound sincere. "Mother, do you even understand why I'm upset with you?" "Because I hired a lawyer? Because I tried to establish appropriate boundaries?" "No." Jennifer's voice cracked. "I'm upset because you weren't there. My whole life, you weren't there. And when I finally found someone who was, you tried to take that away from me too." I heard Patricia take a sharp breath on the other end of the line. "That's not fair, Jennifer. I worked hard to give you a good life. Everything I did was for you." "I didn't need money, Mom. I needed you. I needed you at my dance recitals. I needed you when I got my period and had no idea what was happening. I needed you when boys broke my heart in high school. I needed you when I lost my baby." Jennifer's voice broke completely. "And you weren't there. Not for any of it." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. And then Diane came into my life, and she was there for all of it. She held me when I cried. She came to my appointments. She helped me when I was scared. She loved me the way I always wished you would. And instead of being happy that I had that, you tried to destroy it too. Patricia's voice was small now, uncertain. "I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize. You wanted to pretend that your career was more important than me, that you didn't miss anything important, that I turned out fine, so your choices were justified. But I'm not fine, Mom. I spent my whole life trying to win your love and approval, and I never could, because you were never really there to give it." I wanted to comfort Jennifer, but I stayed where I was in the kitchen, giving her space to say what she needed to say. "Jennifer, Patricia's voice was shaking now, uncertain. "I thought you understood. I thought you were proud of me, of everything I accomplished. I am proud of you, but I'm also hurt by you. Both things can be true." There was sniffling on the other end of the line. Was Patricia actually crying? "I didn't know you felt this way," Patricia said quietly. "You never said anything. You always seemed so independent, so self-sufficient. I thought you didn't need me." "I did need you. I just learned not to ask because you were never available anyway." The words hung in the air like a verdict, true and devastating. "I'm sorry." Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm truly sorry, Jennifer. I was a terrible mother. I was so focused on proving myself in my career, on showing everyone that a Black woman could rise to the top, that I forgot the most important job I had was being your mother." Jennifer covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing silently. This was the first real apology her mother had ever given her. I can't go back and change the past, Patricia continued, her voice thick with emotion. But I want to try to do better now. If you let me, if it's not too late. It's not too late, Jennifer whispered. But you have to understand something, Mom. Diane is part of my family now. She's part of Zoe's life. I'm not choosing between you two. I'm choosing both. If you can't accept that, then we can't move forward. Another long silence. Patricia hesitated. Can I speak to Diane? Is she there? Jennifer looked at me, her eyes wide. I nodded and walked over to the couch, sitting beside her. I'm here, Patricia, I said gently. Diane, Patricia took a shaky breath. I owe you an apology too. A real one. I was threatened by you, by how easily you connected with my daughter, by how much she loves you. I felt like you were showing me up, showing everyone what I should have been but wasn't. And instead of dealing with my own guilt and shame, I lashed out at you. I felt my own tears starting. Thank you for saying that. I shouldn't have sent that lawyer's letter. I shouldn't have tried to turn people against you. It was petty and cruel, and I'm ashamed of myself. She paused. You were there for Jennifer when she needed someone. You gave her something I failed to give her, and I should be grateful to you, not angry. Patricia, I never wanted to replace you. I just wanted to love Jennifer. That's all. I know that now. I think I always knew it. I just couldn't admit it. Patricia's voice was steadier now. Can we start over? Not forget what happened, but try to move forward? Maybe find a way to both be in Jennifer's life without competing? Jennifer looked at me, hope shining through her tears. I squeezed her hand. I'd like that, I said. Me too, Jennifer added. The conversation lasted another 30 minutes. It wasn't easy. There were more tears, more honest confessions, more pain that had been buried for years. But there was also hope, real hope that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. When they finally hung up, Jennifer collapsed against me, emotionally exhausted. Did that really just happen? She whispered. It did, baby. It really did. Do you think she meant it? Do you think she'll really try to change? I don't know, I said honestly. But I think she wants to, and that's something. Marcus came home from work an hour later and found us both on the couch, eyes red from crying, but faces peaceful. When Jennifer told him what had happened, he pulled both of us into a hug. I'm proud of you, told his wife. That took courage, real courage. That night, after I went home, I sat in my quiet house and thought about everything that had happened, about Patricia's pain and Jennifer's strength, and the complicated mess that family can be, about how sometimes the people we love hurt us the most, and how forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about choosing to move forward despite the pain. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Patricia.
Thank you for being there for my daughter when I wasn't. I mean that, Patricia. I stared at those words for a long time before typing back, thank you for sharing her with me. She's an amazing woman. You did something right. Diane. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning.
The next few months were a delicate dance. Patricia didn't transform overnight into the mother Jennifer had always wanted, but she tried. She really tried. She started calling more regularly, not just once every few weeks, but twice a week. Short conversations at first, awkward and stilted, but gradually becoming more natural. She asked about Zoe's milestones, about Jennifer's day, about Marcus's work. Small talk that meant everything, because it meant she was showing up, even if it was just on the phone. And she stopped asking about me. Not in a bad way. She just stopped keeping track of how often I visited or how involved I was. She let go of the competition that had existed only in her mind. 6 weeks after that phone call, Patricia came to visit again. This time she called first, asked if it was a good time, and stayed at a hotel instead of assuming she could stay at Jennifer's house. Baby steps, but important ones. I offered to stay away during her visit, but Jennifer wouldn't hear of it. No, Mom, you're part of this family. She needs to get used to that. So I was there when Patricia arrived, and the moment we saw each other face to face was awkward and tense. We stood in Jennifer's living room, two women who had been at war with each other, trying to figure out how to be civil. "Hello, Diane," Patricia said stiffly. "Hello, Patricia. It's good to see you." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. I wanted this to work, for Jennifer's sake, and that meant giving Patricia a chance. We sat down together, the three of us, and watched Zoe play with her toys on the floor. The conversation was careful at first, both of us avoiding anything that might trigger conflict. But then something shifted. Zoe crawled over to Patricia and pulled herself up using her grandmother's leg, babbling happily. Patricia's face transformed. All the hardness melted away, and she looked down at her granddaughter with pure love. "She's gotten so big," Patricia whispered, carefully picking Zoe up. "The last time I saw her, she couldn't even sit up on her own. She's 7 months now, growing like a weed." "She has your eyes," Patricia told her daughter, and there was so much emotion in her voice. "And your smile. You were just like this when you were a baby. So happy, so curious about everything." It was the first time I'd heard Patricia talk about Jennifer as a baby, the first glimpse into a past that Patricia usually kept locked away. "Really?" Jennifer leaned forward, hungry for these stories. "What else was I like?" And for the next hour, Patricia told stories. About baby Jennifer, about toddler Jennifer, about moments that Patricia had been there for, even if there hadn't been enough of them. She pulled out her phone and showed us photos we'd never seen. Jennifer at her first birthday party, Jennifer taking her first steps, Jennifer covered in spaghetti sauce and laughing. I watched Jennifer's face as she absorbed these pieces of her history, and I saw something heal in her. The confirmation that her mother loved her, even if she hadn't known how to show it properly. That there had been moments of connection, even if they'd been too few and far between. "Thank you for sharing those," Jennifer said quietly when Patricia finished. "I didn't know you had those pictures." "I've always had them. I've looked at them more times than I can count, especially over the last few months." Patricia's voice was thick. "Wishing I could go back and do things differently. Wishing I had been there more." "You're here now," Jennifer said simply. "That's what matters." By the time Patricia left 3 days later, something fundamental had shifted. We weren't friends, Patricia and I, but we weren't enemies anymore either. We were two women who both loved Jennifer and Zoe, trying to figure out how to make that work. The real test came 2 months later, Zoe's first birthday party.
Jennifer wanted both of us there, both grandmothers, together, celebrating this milestone. Marcus's father was flying in from Florida with his wife. Jennifer's aunt from her father's side was coming. It was going to be a big family gathering, and Jennifer was terrified it would all blow up.
What if you two can't get along? She worried as we planned the party. What if there's a scene? There won't be a scene, I assured her. We're both adults. We both love you and Zoe. We'll make it work. I was more confident than I felt, but I meant it. For Jennifer's sake, for Zoe's sake, I would make it work. The party was on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Jennifer's backyard. Pink and gold decorations everywhere, a smash cake shaped like a teddy bear, family and friends filling the space with laughter and love. Patricia arrived right on time, looking elegant but less rigid than usual. She'd brought a mountain of gifts for Zoe and a bouquet of flowers for Jennifer. And she brought something else too, a small gift bag that she handed to me privately before the party really got started. "What's this?" I asked, surprised. "Just open it." Inside was a framed photo. It showed Jennifer, Marcus, Zoe, Patricia, and me. All of us together. I didn't even remember when it had been taken, but there we were, surrounding Zoe, all smiling. Patricia must have had someone else take it during her last visit. At the bottom, she had something engraved on the frame. "It takes a village. Thank you for being part of ours." I looked up at Patricia, tears in my eyes. This is beautiful. I meant what I said before. Thank you for being there for her. Patricia's voice was sincere. I'm working on being better, but I know I have a long way to go. I'm grateful that Jennifer has you while I'm figuring it out. She has both of us now, I said gently, and that's even better. The party was perfect. Zoe smashed her cake with gleeful abandon, getting frosting in her hair and on her face and everywhere else. We all laughed and took pictures and celebrated this little girl who had brought so much love into our lives. At one point, I looked across the yard and saw Patricia holding Zoe, pointing at the balloons and making her giggle. Jennifer was standing next to them, her hand on her mother's shoulder, smiling with joy that went bone deep. Marcus was taking pictures of all three of them. And I realized something important. This was family. Not the perfect Hallmark movie version of family, but real family. Messy and complicated, full of people who had hurt each other and forgiven each other and chosen to keep trying. Jennifer caught my eye and mouthed, "Thank you." I smiled and shook my head. She didn't need to thank me. This is what love does. It shows up, it holds on, it forgives, it makes room for everyone. As the sun started to set and the party wound down, Patricia came over to where I was cleaning up paper plates. She grabbed a trash bag and said, "Let me help with that." We worked together in comfortable silence for a few minutes, and then she said something that surprised me. "I was thinking maybe next month, when I come visit, the three of us could go out for lunch. You, me, and Jennifer. No husbands, no baby, just us." "I'd like that," I said, meaning it. "Good." She smiled, and it reached her eyes this time. Me too. That night, after everyone had gone home and I was back in my own house, I looked at the framed photo Patricia had given me. All of us together. A blended family that shouldn't work, but somehow did. My phone buzzed. It was a group text from Jennifer. She'd created a group chat called Zoe's Grandmas. The message was simple. A photo from today of Patricia and me both holding Zoe, both smiling at the camera. And underneath, Jennifer had written, "My daughter is so lucky to have two amazing grandmothers. Thank you both for today, for everything. I love you." Patricia responded first. "Love you too, sweetheart. Today was perfect." I typed my response. "Love you, baby girl.
Every single day with you and Zoe is a gift. And it was true. All of it. Because sometimes family isn't about blood or titles or who came first. Sometimes family is about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when it's hard, who makes room for everyone at the table. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, family is about second chances, about women who fought over love, learning that there's enough love for everyone, about mothers and daughters healing old wounds, about grandmothers setting aside pride to celebrate a beautiful baby girl. That's the kind of family we became. Not perfect, but real. And that was more than enough.